Ever mix up from words from different languages? Yeah. When I tried to learn some Japanese a long time ago, I gave up quickly because I kept conflating words with ones that I already knew in Korean, and I couldn't speak quickly. I couldn't form sentences quickly because if I tried to speak naturally and not think about it for a long time beforehand, the wrong language would come out, and that sucked. And I was like, I don't want to learn this now. So I wanted to wait. I think at this point it'd be fine, but it was tough. Even when I was doing the video with them, like a member says something and I understand it, and instead of something in Japanese, I had to stop myself from being like oh matayo, and saying stuff like that, oh mata, like all these things you'd say like, oh that's right, while someone's talking, be like all right, I get it. I had to stop myself from doing that because like my brain was like, do this now, and I'm like, no, it's not, it's the wrong language, I just know. But like you naturally do it. So it's tough, especially when a lot of the words that they're saying are ones that I recognize. It's not the same language, but it's the same exact roots. It's hard to get your brain out of that zone because you keep hearing really familiar words. So I had to, stop myself and just be like, okay, I'll just be here. You want to learn Japanese before you go back again? Yeah, but at the same time, Japan, it's nice to learn the language, but so many things are so friendly to travelers that you really don't have to. It's nice to do so, but if you're not good with it, they'll just be like, hey, that's nice. You don't have to do that though. Anyway, and then they start speaking English. So it's nice, but don't feel pressure like you have to. You tried Japanese in high school, didn't go well? It's tough. Learning an Asian language in high school is usually, it's rough unless you go specifically, like you're learning Mandarin, you go to Chinese school, for example, you go to a specific place for that, or a lot of Korean kids will go to Korean churches and things and speak there. They usually have some sort of supplement. When you try to just bare bones learn it in school alone and you don't have that reinforcement outside of it, that can be really difficult, and it's hard. And at least if you learn something like Spanish, there are chances to use that in daily life. If you're in America, there are chances to see and hear things and have it reinforced, but with the other ones, not so much. So it can be tough, man. Your one regret was not going full weeb and didn't pursue learning Japanese. I think a lot of people felt at the time in school, they felt like they didn't want to go full weeb because they didn't want to get made fun of. They didn't want to be that guy, and then later in life, the older you get, the less you care about things like that, the more you're like, nah, it's just cool to learn a language. And a lot of people have regrets. For sure. I personally still think it's better, if you're, depending on where you live, to just learn Spanish because it's so widely used in the US, especially, and in the West. I still think it's just better because the number of times I've been able to help someone out with something because I was able to understand what they were saying is a lot higher, So I still think that's good. That's just me being practical. That's me being practical. I do think it's good to learn something like, if you're going to learn an Asian language, I think you should learn Mandarin personally. Just saying. I think that's the one you should actually try to learn because it's so commonly used. But, if you're going to interact with certain type of media a lot, okay, yeah, learn it. Learn it because you want to. Do it. Mandarin's the most used language, also among the most difficult to learn. Yes and no. I think the reading and writing is doo-doo level hard. It's like nightmare mode. Speaking ain't the worst. It's the tonality of the language that fucks people up. But baseline, I don't think it's as bad as people make it sound. I think what it is there are certain people that just cannot understand the whole idea of tones and cannot replicate them, so they give up. But if you can do that even a little bit, it's really not that hard of a language, in my opinion. I think it's actually quite simple. I think they leave out a lot of fluff and excess words that we use in English. It's very matter of fact and very statement forward. It's I think it's just easier and it feels more efficient. I feel like you say fewer syllables rather to say the same thing. So I actually don't think it's that bad, to be honest. Isn't Korean not related at all to Japanese Chinese? No, completely incorrect. So Korean is based on Chinese initially. It is settled by Han Chinese people at first, a very long time ago, and then became its own thing. And the thing is, their writing system is completely unrelated. Their writing system is only like a couple hundred years old. It's really not old. It's a very modern day compared to others writing systems. So Korean letters, the Korean alphabet that they write with, was created within the past couple hundred years by King Sejong. And the reason why he did it is because their writing system before that was actually with Chinese characters. It was called hanja. It's kind of like kanji in Japanese, where they're using traditional Chinese characters and then reading it in Japanese. They're using the same meaning of the symbol but saying it with their phonetic word, right? So Korean was like that. It was written all in hanja and it was Chinese characters. And it was a mixture of them really wanting to break away from that to have their own identity. The emperor thinking that was, or is it the king, thinking that was really important. And then also them just wanting a language that was phonetic, straight up, just looking at other Western languages that were coming in and enjoying that phonetic system to keep their Korean language moving forward in a modern world. They felt like they had to do that. So King Sejong sat down with some scholars, and they sat around and they made a written language. And it is one of the most modern written languages because it was done recently. But yeah, so their phonetic language was made for a much more recent version of Korean. And it is really simple. It's one of the easiest languages to learn how to read. Maybe not to understand, but to be able to phonetically look at the letters and say it. It's so easy. That makes studying easier. And that's why in general they have a really different looking written language, but it's not. Everything about the language is still based on the same things that it was based on previously. It's just that they were like, we need to write with normal letters. No, it's easy to learn though. We should do a lesson. We'll do a lesson one day. I think it'd be fun to teach you guys how to read and write. North Korea use a different language. No, North Korea is still standard, same Korean, but the language has no loan words because they think that the US is evil, and also they split before a lot of loanwords were used. So they, from there forward, were like, yeah, we're not going to use those English loanwords either. We have to keep our identity separate. And they don't have outside influence from other countries, so they're not likely to run into those anyway. And then they just have a very different accent. So when, I don't think you guys would ever like hear it, but when I speak or I hear someone speaking Korean in a North Korean accent, I can immediately tell that they're North Korean. Like immediately, you can just tell by the way they say certain vowels, especially. And they kind of all, anyone who's from North Korea has that accent in some way, shape, or form because they're so insular. They don't have influence from South Korea. So it's just like, it's really distinct and it's hard for them to unlearn. It actually makes a lot of them, when they defect, it's really hard for them to integrate into society because everyone can just tell they're North Korean, like, like immediately. It's really tough for them. It's really, really hard.